Hello, everyone. This is Maya Zahira with PsychicProtectionSanctuary.com. And in today's mini lesson, I would like to talk with you a little bit about the psychic protection ramifications of hugging. So, we had this question a couple of weeks ago in my paid program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy, and some of the members wanted to know, can you pick up on negative energy by simply giving a hug or receiving a hug from someone, and also what do you do if you don't want to hug someone, if you don't feel good about their energy? And there's those awkward moments where we end up going ahead and hugging someone, and we feel like we picked up on their energy cooties and we never wanted to hug them in the first place. So let's talk about this. These are just some of my ideas, and I definitely welcome you to share some of your thoughts and any ideas that you have, what works for you, what maybe some of your experiences that you've had with this subject. And so I invite you to make a comment wherever you're watching this. So first of all, the question, can you pick up negative energy by hugging someone? And the answer is yes, you can. You absolutely can. Now, I've actually run into people who insist that we're always melding energy all the time, whether we're touching or not. So who cares? It doesn't even matter. But as someone who has specialized in psychic protection for several years, and I've worked with I don't know how many clients, a lot of clients over the years, I can tell you for a fact that physical contact, the more direct the physical contact is, the more energy exchange occurs. So, for example, shaking someone's hand is not going to have as much of an effect compared to hugging someone where your chakras are all lined up and mushing together. Okay. So today we're going to talk about hugging, not so much shaking hands, but you could probably adapt to, whatever your circumstance is. Okay. So this topic is really about both personal boundaries and energy boundaries and caring for your own energy field. Okay. So it's about both, because one important factor comes into play regarding personal boundaries, and it's the comfort with saying no, because so many of us are taught to be too nice and we don't want to say no, right? So I'm going to give you some tips that can hopefully help if you don't want to receive a hug. But you'll have to maybe work a little bit, do some inner work on some of your fears of saying no. Any people-pleasing tendencies are kind of working through all of that will be beyond this mini lesson, but you can work on that on your own. Okay, so of course, obviously, hugs are not all bad. Hugs are wonderful. It's wonderful to receive a hug from someone that you trust, from someone who has compatible energy. You can hug your loved ones. You can hug your pets, your children. It's all a wonderful, uplifting thing. So that's obvious, where we know that that's true. But we're talking here about circumstances where the hug is either unwanted, or maybe you're not so sure about that person's energy. Okay. So there's a couple of things that can happen when you give or accept a hug from somebody who has less than great energy. The first thing is what I call energy cooties, which is like the my funny term for, really any non-beneficial energy that has come from that person and glommed onto you. It can be emotions, thought forms. It can be, really, really anything, just any energy goo. Okay. And then also number two thing that you can pick up is energy cords. People can hook a cord, for example, from themselves into you, into some part of your energy system. People will even do this unconsciously. Even people who don't know about energy, they're doing it on an unconscious level, trying to hook into you mentally, emotionally, interpersonally, etc. So they will hook energy cords into you. And then there are people who are full aware of what they're doing. And that was the circumstance in a story that I'm going to share in a little bit. So when someone knows about energy, they know how they should be keeping their energy to themselves and not latching into other people, but they will on purpose hook into someone else's energy field as a way to maybe do some energy vampirism, suck energy from them, or to hook in order to control or keep them in their circle, right? To keep them in their vicinity, kind of like a tether, yeah, to stay attached, right? So that's another thing that can happen through hugs is energy cords. And last but not least is entities. Believe it or not, entities can actually hop onto the other person just through a hug. Now, let's be clear though, an entity can hop from one person onto another, even if there's no physical contact. So I worked with somebody many years ago who was walking through an airport, and an entity hopped from a person who was walking like right by her the other direction. She's walking this way. The entity hopped from that person right onto her. So there doesn't have to be physical contact. But when there is physical contact, the likelihood of it happening increases exponentially. So, and then either the entity will hop onto you or it will create an energy cord so that it is tethered to you and maybe it's hopping back and forth between you and the other person. But nevertheless, you don't want an entity in your field. Okay. So there are circumstances where maybe a hug is not the best course of action. I'll just share with you that for me, I am somewhat relaxed about hugs. There have been times when I've received hugs from people at maybe spiritual events where the person had not so great energy, and I knew it, but I'm very good at clearing myself, and I'm very good at recognizing what's in my field. And so I have no problem with giving someone some love if they need it. I'll go ahead. But there have been other times where I have been very sure that a person was trying to plug into my energy, or the spiritual entity connected to the person was wanting to hook into my energy. And I was like, no, you don't get access. So that's just me. Everybody is unique. I work with a lot of members in my paid program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy. A lot of them are less relaxed about hugs. They don't, if somebody has energy cooties, they don't want to hug that person. Okay. So wherever you fall in the spectrum, you can just honor and respect that, because you have the right to choose who has access to you. You have the right to choose who is in your life. You have the right to choose who gets to touch you. You are a sovereign being. You have the right to choose, and you can change how you choose. You can make one choice one day and another choice another day. You get to do that. Okay. So I'm going to share one brief story, and then I'm going to give you some advice, and then we'll wrap it up for today. If you don't have a pen and paper yet, I would invite you to grab a pen and paper while I'm sharing my little story, because I think you'll want to write down the tips that I'm going to give you at the end. Okay, so I think it was like 7 years ago, I went to a spiritually oriented therapist. I thought this was going to be a great thing. I wanted to talk with someone who understood spiritual matters so that I wanted to talk with a therapist who understood spiritual matters so that I could talk about some of the trauma that I experienced in a major psychic attack that I went through in 2016. But working with her was a big mistake. And I won't go into all of the reasons why, but there was one thing in particular that happened. This is a really good story that's relevant for our topic. I think I went to her 3 times, maybe 2 times. And at the end of our final session, we stood up and she said, "Can I give you a hug?" And I thought, how wonderful, she's asking for my consent, because I'm really big on consent. Like, it's a big deal to me. If somebody wants to ask me permission, I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that. So I'm going to be more willing if they've asked. And I said, well, thank you for asking. Sure. I'll share a hug with you. So we wrapped our arms around each other. And I'm thinking it's going to be like a quick hug because this is a professional therapist, a licensed therapist. Okay. A quick hug, a little pat on the back, right? No. She wrapped her arms around me and she kept them there. And she pulled close and our chests were like heart chakra to heart chakra. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to exit the hug. And I actually tried to step back and she tightened her arms. And then she did this. As she was hugging me. And I was like, gross. What are you doing? My first thought was she was trying to connect. She was trying to expand her heart chakra and connect our hearts together, which in my opinion is completely fucking inappropriate. A licensed therapist, like, she did not ask consent. Can I hook our heart chakras together? No, she asked for a hug. Okay. And this was way more than I bargained for. And like I said, I tried to back out of it and she tightened her arms even more. And I'm like, what do I do? And I was pissed. I was like, I already knew we were not a fit and I was planning on not coming back, but that sealed the deal. Sealed the deal. Complete boundary violation. Personal boundary violation, energetic boundary violation. And I did feel that she was trying to purposefully hook into my energy so that I would keep coming back for sessions. And I honestly thought she was an idiot because I have a mind of my own and I'm not going to let someone manipulate my energy like that. So she finally released her hug. And after that got me to thinking, what do I, like, if this ever happens again, what do I do? Because I was kind of caught where I didn't know what to do when just stepping back didn't work. Okay. So there is a method that I'm going to give you in the tips section that I'm going to cover next that can be helpful if you get stuck in a hug and and it's like a death grip and they won't let go and you're trying to get out of the hug. Have you ever had that happen before? So I'm going to give you some tips, and that particular tip would have helped me if I were to go and relive that situation again. I would do what I'm going to recommend here. So I'm going to start off with some basic tips, and then I'll get to the death grip hug advice in just a little bit. Okay, so grab your pen and paper. If you don't want to hug someone, and remember, you don't have to be psychic and clairvoyant and clairaudient like I am to be able to discern if you don't want to hug someone. If you just have a gut feeling, I don't really want to hug that person, in that split moment, you have the right to make that decision. And even if it has nothing to do with their energy, maybe you just don't feel like it. You don't have to have a reason. Okay? You are in charge of your energy. So a couple of tips. And these will apply if somebody says, can I give you a hug? Or if they just start to come in. That's more common. They just start to come in with their arms open and they just start to do it. So here's a couple of things. First, and I've done all of these. First thing you can do is wave. I will step back and I'll just smile and I'll go, hi. Hi, nice to meet you. Because usually it's like, oh, we're just meeting for the first time. It's good to meet you. Or if we're saying goodbye, right? Bye. Okay, so you're still being nice. You're not saying, no, you have cooties. You're just waving, bye, or hello, nice to meet you. Or hand on your heart. You're just meeting someone. What? You're greeting, hello, or goodbye. Those are the most common times for a hug. Hand on your heart. You can give genuine eye contact and you can say, it's really nice to meet you. Or I really enjoyed meeting you. Or it was really great seeing you today. And I'll see you later. So you're still being authentic and you're still making of a kind and friendly connection. But you don't have to have a hug. Okay. Let's see. There's a more assertive method that I've used in the past, and I used this one specifically with someone who was totally violating my boundaries and was clearly trying to hook into my energy, and it was pissing me off. So when this person started to come in for a hug, I put my hand up like this in the stop motion. I did this to stop that person, and I said, no thanks, I'm good. So it was, no thanks, I'm good. So the hand is blocking them and it's giving them a visual of what not to do. And then you're saying, no thanks, I'm good. Yep. And what was the other one? Oh, and then if you're in a death grip, what to do. If you're in a hug and they won't let go, here's what I recommend. You bring your arms out to the side. So you're hugging, they're hugging you. Either you bring your arms up and down, or depending on where their arms are, you might bring your arms up and then out. So either up and down, and you push their arms off of you. Or depending on where their arms are at, you might put your hands through their arms like you're threading a needle, and you do this. You pull their arms off as you step back. And this is also a self-defense movement. So if someone is trying to grab you from the front, you do or this. Okay. So, and you don't have to say anything. You can say, thanks, I'm done, or whatever you want to say. And all the recommendations that I gave were fairly friendly, but depending on the circumstance, you don't have to be friendly. You could say whatever you want to. You could be like if I were to relive the situation with the therapist, I could say, I could pull her arms off of me, back away, and say, I didn't give you consent for that kind of hug. I gave you consent for a quick hug. Don't do that again. So if I wanted to be very brusque, I could have been. And you can be. If somebody violates your boundaries, you can be nice, but you don't have to be. You don't have to be. This is about protecting your energy and doing what's needed. Okay. So remember, it's up to you to decide what's okay and what's not okay in your energy field. And your response might not be the same as everyone else's, and that's totally okay. Let me know what your ideas are, what your thoughts are on this topic. Are you a hugger? Are you not a hugger? Have you been in any weird circumstances where you didn't want to have a hug and you got stuck in it? And what did you do? A lot of times we end up in kind of a passive situation where we want to take action, but we don't know what to do. So what would you do next time if something weird happened again in the future? What would you do next time? So I do encourage you to share your ideas because we learn from each other. And I really want to get the conversation going so we can all get ideas on what to do if we're ever caught in any of these circumstances. And at some point in your life, you will be faced with to hug or not to hug. So we're all going to learn from this conversation. I just know it. If you would like to connect with me further, you want to find out more about my work, you can do so at my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Until next time, I'm sending you lots of love.